Hey everybody, welcome to Vaults Remastered. This is my story, my journey, my tale of conversion, taking a 5th edition homebrew world known as the Vaults and turning it into a Pathfinder 2nd edition game. Remastered version. The remastered version of Pathfinder is releasing in about a month from now, November 2023. So I've got a lot of work to do. And I thought it'd be a good idea to document what I'm doing and how I'm doing it because maybe it's going to be useful to some of you out there. Maybe you're planning on doing the same thing, or maybe you're thinking about it, but you're not sure. Is it worth it? So I'm just going to kind of document what I'm doing. By no means is this some sort of how to or this is the way to do whatever. I'm just going to share my experiences and you can kind of ride along if you wish and hopefully get some pointers, some tips, or learn things you shouldn't do. So for me, I have at this point wiped my world clean. I have blown it up. I've destroyed it. I've had a couple different cataclysmic events that have reset the world. So the characters that are going to be starting in the Pathfinder world, that's going to be launching in about a month from now. New characters, new events, new everything. The world itself is the same location, but the reality of it is what's been changed. And so you've done that, right? You've blown up your world. And then you've recast it, you've rebirthed it, you've got it reset. You have a theme for this new world. You have some idea of the conflicts of this new world. You've tied it into the destruction of the old world. So now you're left with what's next? What do I do? Where do I go? And that's what this video is about. And that's also where the answers lie because what comes next, there's a name for that, and it's called your plot. So I'm going to go through in this video how to plot a new course in this Pathfinder 2e world. You've gonna land your characters, your PCs in this world. So we need to know what's going on. We need to know what's the plot or potential plots. We need to know who the actors are for these plots. Not specifically the PCs because I don't know who my PCs are probably till really last minute. That's session 0. So I need to have the world ready to go before that, long before that. So I need to know NPCs. I need to know, factions. I need to know BBEGs, who are the bad guys, that sort of thing. Antagonists, if you will. And then I need to know where the players can go, where the PCs can go. I need to have stages. I need to have locations, sets, etc. I don't need super duper details right away, but I have to have a plan, right? I have to be able to plot a course for the players to navigate. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to start with the idea of the plot. We're going to weave a web for part of this process. We have to have a purpose. We have to know, what is this remastered world campaign even about? And so we have to figure out what plot threads are being woven through this world. Maybe it's only one. Maybe it's more than one. Maybe it's a whole bunch of them. Maybe it's very open world and you're not really even sure what the plots are. Whatever the case is, you have to have some idea of where this story can go. And another thing you want to think about is what's left over from your old world, because a lot of your plots should be anchored there. Ooh, I think I just said the bad word should be. A lot of your plots probably are anchored from the past. What was the world before this event that wiped it clean? So that's kind of a starting point, I think, for a lot of these plot threads. So to get into this process, it's going to require you to revisit your theme. For my game world, my theme is going to revolve around chaos versus order. You need to look at what are the threats in your new world. That kind of gets to the actors, the new factions, the new big bad evil guys and gals. Who are the NPCs that might be allies or enemies of the party and the characters? And then what are the stakes for your world? What happens if things go bad? What happens if people lose? What is losing? What's winning? What happens if the bad guys win? Are there bad guys? Who knows? And so all these things are gonna spin your plot or plots, the threads through this chain of connected events. So you have like an anchor point, let's say, from your old world, and then you have these locations, perhaps you have these motivations driving the plot threads in whatever direction. And again, it could be one thread, it could be multiple threads. It really depends on what you're trying to do. So one other thing you want to take a look at is and kind of stop along each of these paths here or process here. So we have our what could happen, our plots. And by the way, I'm going to give you examples from my world in a second. I'm just kind of going through the basic thought process that I'm going through, and I would, recommend for you to do as well. So I will answer some of these questions as we go, but at the end of the video. So the second part of this is your actors. Who is in this web? Who is prowling it? Predator type of thing? Is there some sort of spider, proverbially or literally? Who's stuck in the web? Who's navigating the web? So this again gets to those NPCs. So as you're coming up with this new theme, this new world, these new plots, who are the actors? Who are the movers and the shakers? Who is driving the action forward? Is it an NPC? Is it a villain, big bad evil gal? Is there some new faction, some old faction, organization that evolves in this new world? There's leftover from the old world. They could be allies. They could be enemies. They could be a neutral party that really doesn't choose sides. You'll probably have at least one of each, if not multiple, depending on the scope of your world. And then the other big thing, and a lot of this, by the way, ties into the campaign design that I was talking about in my last video. When we're talking about recasting the world, and if you look in the Game Mastery Guide from Pathfinder 2E, they have a whole list of steps or procedures that you should go through to design a campaign. So I'm pulling a little bit of information from that, but I'm also applying my own, just the way I think about things. So we have our organizations, factions, whatever we've given birth to in this new world. They should have a motivation. Bad word again. Should they? Well, I'm almost got to lock in on that one. I think they do need motivation. If they don't have motivation, you're going to have a problem, right? Like, what do they want? Because what they want could be what the PCs and your players want, which means allies potentially. If what they want is in opposition to what your player characters want, well, then they're enemies perhaps. That leads to conflict, combat, negotiation, whatever. Maybe they are a neutral party and your players could ally with them, could make enemies of them. It depends on how a diplomatic situation plays out. So you kind of need to know what each of these groups or organizations wants. And then how do they connect to your overall plot or plots? Where are they along that thread? Are they at the start, at the end, somewhere in the middle? Are they at a node where things are overlapping, interconnecting? Because that might mean they're connecting to each other. And they probably also should connect to your PCs. It would kind of be, I mean, it could be that you have a faction that really ignores the PCs. This is true. But at some point, the PC's interactions will probably cause a connection. Could be hostile, could be friendly with one of these other actors, these other players, and then create some sort of conflict or tension or opportunity. If it's just a parallel running faction that really never gets interacted with, it's sort of a waste of time other than some setting dressing. So, if you're going to go through the trouble of creating these things and fleshing them out, you probably should have the intention of your characters interacting with them in some way, shape, or form, or these groups somehow affecting the world itself, such that the players are feeling the consequences of that. So knowing who all your actors are, that's something else you need to flesh out in this next step of what do I do with my world. And then the third thing that I mentioned at the opening here is your stage. In other words, how big is this web? And then how many connections does your plot have? Is it just a linear straight line? Hey, it starts here, it goes there, goes there, goes there, it ends there, done. Is it some sort of radial, twisted, multifaceted, crazy maze of a plot that spans the whole world, perhaps spans time, weeks, months, years, decades, who knows? Those are some things you want to start thinking about early. And it depends what kind of campaign you're running. If it's sort of that linear railroad, style, which is fine, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with the railroad. There's a beginning, a middle, end, and the players know what they need to do, and they're going in that direction. Great. Is it completely open and players can explore it any old way they want? That's going to be a whole different style of thinking and planning for this world. So you want to think about this early enough that if you are going to go radial specifically or open world and the players can go anywhere, you're going to have a lot more knowledge of your overall world, where linear allows you a much more focused, tight campaign. And that leads to the other part here is how expansive are you looking at for this campaign? Are you just running this for a few weeks, a few months, and it's done? Is this going to be like a level 1 to 5 type of thing? Or are you going all the way 1 to 20? This is going to run years potentially if you're real life, multiple teams going. It's some, open style West Marches type of game. How much exploration are you doing? That's really kind of to me, the big difference between a linear and a radial style or a railroad and open world is really boils down to how much exploration and mystery is in your game. If it's a tight, railroad linear, there's not going to be much. There's going to be, again, this known beginning, a targeted end, and there's a couple discoveries that lead you along that path, and you get there, you're done. Whereas if it's radial, it's open, and things can grow in multiple different directions, then there's going to be a ton of exploration, a ton of mystery, a ton of things to learn, lore, clues, etc. That is, again, a much more broad, expansive requirement out of you as the game master. And then the other part of that is the end known. In a linear, style game, the end is very likely known. It's pretty obvious we're going in that direction. It might not be obvious right at the beginning, but at some point the players know, yeah, we need to go to the tower and save the princess. End of story. Whereas if it's an open world, there may be sort of a final point. We need to defeat the Dark One, whoever that is. But how to do it, where to go, that's all hidden, mysterious, it's obfuscated. There's lots of options, there's lots of mystery, that sort of thing. So, again, early in your planning, at this stage, after recasting this world, do you have to have your thoughts on this? Your actors, who's doing what? The stages, where things can happen, where things can go, and both of those are tied to the plot. What is the plot? What are the plots? What are the potential plots? Are there subplots? Are there plots that come back on themselves? Are there plots that overlap and interact with each other? So lots and lots of possibilities at this stage. Now, as I mentioned, I have my own campaign world running, and I have the same exact dilemma as I'm outlining for you in a generic sense. In my game, known as the Vaults, it's an open world, pretty open that is. It's very exploration heavy. There's tons of mystery. My main theme, my main struggle is chaos versus order. There are forces of chaos trying to become free, and that could be potentially a good thing, but for the most part, it's sort of bad because ultimate chaos is trying to destroy the world. And then there's the forces of order, things that are trying to keep things from fracturing or getting too crazy. That sounds good, but you can also have the evil side of that where, tyranny. You have to stay in line, or otherwise you're crushed. From the last couple of videos, I've talked about 4 of these plot threads already, so I'm not going to get in a ton of detail on these first 4 triggered events. So if you're interested in that, you can go ahead and check out my video about recasting your world. That's where I summarize these in a lot more detail. I will be referring to these today as part of this video, but I'm not going to get too in depth with them. But from my previous game world, my destroyed 5th edition world, I had a primordial being birthed, emerging, known as Laradress, and she's starting an inquisition, essentially. This is one of the big events that is happening in my new world. That is a plot that is running. There is also a possessed sword has infected this celestial machine known as the Gate of Aethratus, and that has triggered a far realm incursion. Think about sort of like an alien invasion. Creatures from the far realm are coming in to destroy the world. That's another plot thread that is currently triggered. A third thing that I mentioned was that there's this artificial intelligence, or what I call it, arcano intelligence, an AI known as Nexus. It has been released from its captivity, and it is now beginning to assimilate organic and construct life and turning them into a drone army for its own purposes. Again, another plot thread that is running. And then the fourth one was this Zeus drive, this chaos engine has been activated. It's emitted this huge chaos bubble. It's swallowing part of the game world and it's leaking mutating energy. That is another thing that has happened, another plot thread that has been plucked and is vibrating. I have 4 additional ones. And maybe you're going, why do you have so many plots? Again, I have an open world. I have this very radial concept. And in the concept of chaos, if you know anything about chaos, it's an 8-pointed star. So for chaos to rule, to wreak havoc, to win, eight. 8 triggers, 8 events, 8 things are happening. It wasn't my fault that 4 got triggered. That was the players did that. Again, see my video about recasting the world, and you'll see. Actually, I talked about that in my blowing up the world video, if I'm not mistaken. I digress. I still have 4 untriggered plots, a total of 8, and these are still lying ready to be launched. And they have minimal attachment to the old game, so I'm a little freer with these, what I can and want to do with them. I have an organization known as the Stone Serpents, and they are attempting to awaken something known as the Sleepers. I have a entity known as the Hungering Darkness that is growing in powers. It's consuming psychic energy of its victims. I have a species and ancestry of rat creatures based upon the Skaven of Warhammer game world, known as the Verm in my game world, and they are building this chaos plague, the ultimate disease that they wish to spread, and they are looking to ally with potentially another disease causing entity in the game world, a fungal primordial that is lurking in the depths beneath the world. And then we've got the 4th and final untriggered events, although it's been partially triggered. There are 3 sisters. They are dark fae creatures, from the fae dark, shadow darky influences, and they are essentially a coven. And they are seeking one of the pieces of the Rod of Law. The Rod of Law would be Order's ultimate weapon against chaos. It has been in an earlier battle, and that's how it got fractured and fragmented, and when it banished chaos ages ago. So these 3 sisters, this coven, is looking for this rod. So as you can see, I've got 8 things that can or might happen. 4 have already been plucked and are vibrating threads that are now going to potentially carry my players into this new Pathfinder world that I'm going to be working with here. So this is where I'm kind of at right now, where the rest of this video will touch upon is I have these themes in my game right now. I've got chaos versus order, like I already said, but survival is a huge thing because I've had these cataclysmic events, these apocalyptic events have happened, and the world was already grim, dark, survival based, but now it's going to be even more so because there's so much crazy stuff happening now with these different entities and factions being birthed or destroyed and twisted and mutated, whatever. Survival's a huge thing. And then freedom and tyranny, this conflict between these 2 forces, which goes really with chaos and order. But there are organizations that are going to be bent upon freeing others, and that could be a good thing, freeing the slaves. But it also could be just, agents of anarchy. That could be bad. And then you've got tyranny on the other side, which could be tyrants, enslaving people, putting them in chains if they don't believe, or it could be just trying to keep society glued together enough to survive. So it depends on the extremes. So that is another major theme. So these are my big themes in my game world. And then I'm left with a bunch of questions, right? For my plots, I just shared with you I have 8 things that are or could be going. Well, which one should I start with? I mean, do I pick one specifically? Or do I pick more than one? Do I give my players agency to pick 1 or 2? Maybe that opening game, that opening session is, I don't want to say the proverbial quest board, but similar to that, right? Maybe there are clues and hints out there in the game world that if they choose A, B, or C, that is going to launch them down a specific plot thread. It could be something like that, but I don't know the answer to that in yet because I don't really know who my PCs are. And then how do those threads weave together? Because I definitely plan, I don't have 8 railroads here. I don't have 8 linear lines. I have 8 spiraling, twisting, tapestry weaving threads that I'm not 100% sure how they tie together, if they'll get tied together, when they'll get tied together. Again, it kind of depends on the PCs, but I have in my head that they are going to get twisted together, and that's going to somehow be the trigger for Chaos's victory. Or if these threads are somehow maybe blocked from intertwining, that might be Order's victory. I don't know yet. And then what is the big picture? What is the overall tapestry? In other words, what are the win conditions for one side or the other? What does the end of the campaign look like? Gotta have some ideas, gotta have some thoughts about that, gotta have a vision. So gotta figure this out. And then my actors, right? I already mentioned I don't even know who my PCs are. I know who a lot of my players are, but I don't know what characters they're going to develop. I don't know where they're going to, if they're going to have tie-ins to specific factions, old or new, or what even, ancestries they're creating, what classes they're playing. I don't know any of that stuff, and I really won't know till session 0 and then moving into session 1 actually. But I can start to figure out NPCs and the leaders of the various factions and organizations because I need to know who's pulling strings. I need to know who the antagonists are that will be trying to thwart the player characters or who are, the targets of the player characters' actions. And I need to know which of these different threads these actors are traveling along or, you know, line and lurk, or maybe they're stuck somewhere along one of these pathways. And then who is trying to stop and catch the players, the NPCs? What is motivations, right? What's going on? And then the stages. Where did these threads even start? Are you doing the proverbial starting in a tavern? That could be. What tavern is left in the new world? The old world was essentially destroyed. So what is the new reality? The new, starting point for this campaign? Are there multiple starting points? My old campaign, I've ran with 2 teams simultaneously, and they were in different parts of the game world, the vaults. So, am I going to do that again? I don't know yet. And then, what are the challenges that need to be placed along those pathways? They could be locations, they could be events, things that along the journey causes the players to stop, and maybe there's a conflict, maybe there's a negotiation, maybe there's a discovery made. So I need to start figuring out that. What are the little points along each of these threads? So there's lots and lots of questions, lots and lots of things that I don't have the answers to. But that is why, as I mentioned in my previous couple of videos, I rely upon the power of a muse. And my muse is known as Kathy, which is short for Chatty Cathy, and that is ChatGPT. Yes, the evil AI open chatbot. I love working with her because she really helps me answer questions like this. I give her information, I give her my thoughts, I give her my my notes that I have about my campaign, and I pose questions like these to her to give me some suggestions. And then we have a great back and forth. And really, that is where I want to take the rest of our videos is how can I take my ideas for these 8 possible threads and see if she can help me figure out some of the answers to these questions, because I need a place to start. I need a place where my characters are going to emerge from their, cocoons, if you will, uh, and begin their journey. So I need help. I need answers. Okay, and I'm not afraid to admit it. So let me go ahead and fire up Chatty Kathy, and we'll see what she can help me come up with, and I'll show you guys in real time this back and forth that I can do with her. All right, here is ChatGPT. Again, I'm not advocating you buy ChatGPT, use it, don't use it. That's up to you. You guys are big kids. You can make your own decisions. I do use it, and I've used it a whole bunch in the last few months to help me with just session planning, world building, etc. I'm really relying upon her. This is the first time I'm full on going into campaign, world building with her. But I want to show you, and I've had a couple of instances of using this in my first video about blowing up the game world, and I did mention how I'm going to use her in the second video. But here I'm really going to get into it and show you all the methods I use. Again, you may have a totally different way of doing things, and that's great. I'm just going to show you how I do it. So let me go ahead and get this started. What I'm going to do is feed her the information about this new game world with these 8 potential plots, and then give her my basic questions, my basic thinking on this. So let me go ahead and get that copied over so that we're all on the same page together. 1 second. All right, I'm back. I went ahead and typed in my question, my prompt for Kathy here to see what she would propose, what she would think. So here's what I've given her the background information. You guys already know this, but she doesn't, right? This is raw, brand new. I haven't said anything to her at all, so she doesn't know anything. So here's what I say. I say, hey, I'm remastering my RPG fantasy campaign, switching it from 5e to 2e Pathfinder. The game is homebrewed, located subterranean world called the Vaults. It's a grimdark setting. Players are adventurers who explore the depths and the dark places for resources they need to help refugees looking to survive this hostile place. Okay. As part of the remaster, I figuratively destroyed the original setting through a series of cataclysmic events. That was the first video I made about blowing up your world. And then the culmination of which causes the game to shift realities, which was the second video I shot about recasting. In other words, I'm starting a whole new rule system. So she knows what I'm doing and where I'm going. Oh, then I give her some more prompts here. I say, ultimately, this new world will be a classic struggle between order and chaos. So the theme, the cataclysmic events are being directed by chaos, its agents. The agents of order are going to rise to combat these events. Neither side is good or evil, although the ultimate threat from beyond the world that wants, although there is an ultimate threat from beyond the world that wants to annihilate all life. So that is a price. That's a stake. The player characters will be trying to prevent the destruction and may interact with either side to save the world. So there's options, flexibility. Anyway, I need your assistance planning this new campaign world. I'm going to give you 8 different events or scenarios that the agents of chaos have or wish to unleash in order to free true chaos, which is a powerful primordial entity from imprisonment. However, if they're successful, it's going to trigger the ultimate doom for the world. The previous D&D game ended with 4 of them being triggered, 4 of these scenarios, 4 of these events being triggered, and I have outlined ideas for the other 4, which I've already shared with you guys. I could use your help outlining a plot for each of these events. Are you ready? So I'm priming her. I'm priming the pump, right? I'm not going to ask for anything other than confirmation. Do you understand what it is I want? Okay. What you don't want to do, Chat GPT, is just dump a huge whatever set of questions and say, give me something. A lot of times she'll get mixed up, confused, overwhelmed, or go off in a tangent, and then you got to spend 30 minutes reeling it back in. So I want to set it up. Are you ready? Send. Let's see what she says. So again, real time responses. She doesn't know what or who or what. Who, what, where, when, why. All right, here she goes. Absolutely. I'm eager to help you design these plot points for your campaign. You can outline the scenarios for me, and I'll work on developing them further for your new Pathfinder's 2e setting. Lay out the events you've got in mind, and we'll dive into each one. So, bam, she tells me she's ready to go. All right, let me go ahead and copy paste my ideas, and then we'll get her started. So, give me another second. Let me pause this. We'll be right back. All right, I've gone ahead and pasted the 8 things. So here's what I say to her. Okay, here are the 8 threads that can trigger chaos's release from an inescapable maze and result in the world's destruction. And then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 things. There's nothing else here, so she's, again, doesn't know anything until I go ahead and hit submit. And there's a lot more detail here than so far I've shared with you guys. Spoiler alert, okay? So there's a lot of stuff here, but the whole lair address primordial, the sword contaminating the gate of Aetheratus to the, let's correct, give her the proper name, the gate of Aetheratus. I've got the one about the Arcano Intelligence Nexus. I've got the Zaus Drive. I've got the Stone Serpents. I've got the Forsaken. I got the Verm Invoker. A rat folk invoker. Might help with some visualization, I guess. And then the 8th one is about the three sisters, this coven. I'm gonna go ahead and hit enter and see what she says. So I just dumped 8 fleshed out plot thread ideas that I have, just outline form, really. And now she's going to give me some thoughts. All right, so here's what she's doing. So what she's doing is she's taking each one of the ideas I had and is giving me a plot summary of, looks like, goals, motivations, etc. So for instance, Lara Dress's ascension. This is the primordial that's been reborn, reemerged. The plot: the agents of order are looking to prevent Lara Dress from ascending as this new primordial. Okay, interesting. Because she just was kind of birthed at the end of the last campaign. And so these agents of order, they want to prevent her, I guess, from getting more powerful, provide hints about a ritual to seal her back in the Veil, which is what she escaped from. The players must locate ancient scrolls detailing the process, deal with any remaining loyalists of Laradress, and reconstruct the Veil. However, they might discover that Laradress isn't necessarily evil, and she seeks revenge for the wrongs done to her, which is freaking true. Oh, that's so funny. Like, she has a reason, right? She's not just some evil dragon goddess or whatever. She got reasons, and they're valid. Players must decide between helping her or completing. All right, so cool. Give me a basic idea. I hadn't thought about, oh, let's have the agents of order appear. So this could give me an idea for a faction, right? This give me an idea for a person who's in charge. That's a plot. Interesting. Then there's stuff about Quintrus's sword, the Nexus infestation, the Chaos Bubble, the Sleeper's Awakening, the Hungering Darkness, the Ratfolk Invoker's Plague, and then the Neverborn Sister Strife. Each of these plots provides avenues for deep character development, moral dilemmas, and intense combat scenarios. They can be intertwined or pursued separately depending on how the players choose to proceed. All right, this is a good point. So I can pursue that, right? I can leave all 8 as separate things, but why that's really complicated, right? I got 8 freaking stories going. I like this thing, intertwined. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask her, can you expand upon your suggestion to intertwine these plots? Perhaps they could be paired or maybe clustered by some common theme. This would reduce the amount of preparation the campaign would require. I'm interested in hearing your thoughts. You got to butter her up. Your thoughts. Boom. Let's see what she gives me. Certainly, by intertwining or clustering these plots based on common themes, shared characters, we can create a more cohesive narrative, reduce the need for entirely separate arcs. Here are some potential groupings. Primordial power and magic's consequences. Laradress's ascension and Quintrus's sword. The ritual to seal Laradress could require the power of Quintrus's sword, suggesting that they share an ancient history or origin. Perhaps Laradress was the protector of the Gate of Aetherotis before her essence was torn from her body. That wouldn't work, but okay. As players journey to find the means to seal or ally with Laradress, they come across a magical forge needed to purify Quintrus's sword. This means facing challenges tied to both Laradress loyalists and the sword's Mind Flayer influence. Okay. It's an idea. I don't want to say I don't like it. It's just that would require some serious reworking. Now, she doesn't know all the stuff I know, right? She doesn't have, my notebook. She doesn't have what's in my head. So the fact that she's got pitching me things that wouldn't work isn't bad. It just means that she doesn't have all the info. All right, then she goes on to say, here's another way to intertwine. Technology and alien unknown. So the Nexus infestation and the Chaos Bubble. Nexus might be drawn to the Chaos Bubble seeing it as a potential source to augment its own capabilities. The alien ship could contain not just the heart of the bubble, but also technology to counteract Nexus's nanites. As players venture into the warped reality of the chaos bubble, they might discover Nexus's early attempts to infiltrate or harness the ship's systems, leading them to confront the alien AI and Nexus's assimilated drones. Now, this potentially could work because Nexus was actually locked away inside of the alien ship. They're actually kind of enemies. The ship itself isn't sentient, though. But maybe there is something in the ship that could combat Nexus, something left over. The problem is the ship has been sucked into this chaos bubble. It's sort of between dimensions. So that definitely could be a way to link those two. So maybe you could see the agents of chaos working on one side and the agents of order working on another. So let's use this as an example of how you could go with this. I like your suggestion for intertwining the Nexus and Chaos bubble plots. And I'll repost it here so she knows what I'm talking about. Boom. Can you suggest how the agents of chaos might be involved? As well as the agents of order. What might be their motivations? What might be at stake for the winners or losers? Okay, so maybe I like this plot idea. Maybe this is where I want to drop a team off in the middle of this. So now I'm going to ask Kathy here, let's flesh this out. Who are the movers and shakers here? Who are some of my actors? Can you also suggest some NPCs that would lead either group? You know, what would the group's names be, do you think? Let's see what she comes up with. Let's go back down here. Certainly, let's dive deeper into the interplay between the agents of chaos and the agents of order, particularly in the context of Nexus and the chaos bubble intertwining. Agents of chaos, the harbingers of the abyss. All right, there's a name pitch. Now, again, you could come up with your own names, but isn't this pretty much like when people go to the internet name generators, right? Same kind of idea. Even gives them a motto: from disorder ascension. You can see them charging into a fight, like attacking the party. From disorder ascension. Like, who the hell are these guys? Leader Mordrek, the whisperer of chaos. Maybe he speaks in a whisper. From disorder ascension. Slay them. Appearance: a tall, emaciated figure wrapped in tattered robes that move as if alive. Beneath the robes, glimpses of swirling void can be seen, and his voice is a chorus of whispers. Look, boom, I'm in her head, she's in my head. Backstory: once a scholar seeking the purest form of magical power, he was consumed by the chaotic energies of the far realm. Now he believes that only through embracing chaos can true power and freedom be achieved. Motivations: Mordrek believes the Nexus and Chaos Bubble are essential tools to bring about a world reshaped by disorder, free from the constraints of reality as they know it. I mean, where's she coming out with this stuff? I didn't. You saw what I gave for clues, right? This is all her. This is all unique new stuff, and I love it. That's good stuff. Key members of this group: Silthra. She's giving me way more than I asked for, too, right? I mean, this is the other cool thing that I keep finding with Kathy. She gives you a lot more than you even ask, and that's a good thing, in my opinion. Key members: Silthra, the Void Touched, an elven warlock who has made pacts with entities from the far realm. Elves themselves are not down here in the vaults, would be the drow, dark elves. She's fascinated with the alien technology and is keen on harnessing its powers for the harbingers. All right, that's her organization. All right, great. Grolm, the Unstable, a mutated giant. Love it. His form constantly shifts and changes due to exposure to chaotic energies. Maybe he came crawling up out of that chaos bubble. He's Mordrek's muscle, smashing through anything or anyone in their way. Maybe this group attacks the party like in the first frickin' scene of the first session. Awesome. Or attacks whatever settlement. The Harbinger's stake. To them, the Chaos Bubble and Nexus represent the dawn of a new reality. If they succeed, they envision a world of unpredictable and limitless power where they reign supreme. To fail would mean to remain confined to the stifling limitations of the known universe. All right, here's what's also cool about what she's doing here. She is pitching this group that is related to my initial thought of Nexus and this Chaos Bubble, but they themselves are not Nexus's agents or the Chaos Bubble's agents. They're an independent organization, so they could, again, my head kind of explodes when she gives me these things. Where does that come from? I don't know. But immediately I'm like, yes, I love this. Okay, I got an independent group that isn't directly Nexus is commanding them. Nexus is still doing its thing, assimilating people. The Chaos Bubble isn't a thinking entity anyway. It's just the ship's engine is fired, and this bubble of energy has been contained temporarily, and it's going to keep eating the game world until it's stopped and shut off. These guys, though, they're like, screw it. We want that bubble to keep expanding, and we want Nexus to keep assimilating or something like that. And the two of them need to be fused somehow. That's freaking crazy. All right, now what about the agents of order? The bastion of celestial equilibrium and balanced truth. Leader is Seraphel, the luminary guardian. This could be one of the shard mines, because in my campaign world, the shard mines, a fourth edition D&D creation, they kind of serve that celestial Azamar role. They are the fragments of the gate Aetherotis that have been shattered in the initial battle between Chaos and Order. Anyway, Seraphel, Luminary Guardian, appearance, majestic being, radiating soft light, armor resembling crystallized starlight. So definitely I could see Shardmine here, and wings that shimmer like an aurora, like the aurora. This gleaming, glowing creature. Celestial being, Seraphel was appointed to safeguard the vaults from imbalances. Maybe she's been around this whole time, and now that this thing has gone off, she's finally emerging. Seeing the threats of Nexus and the Chaos Bubble, she mobilizes her order to restore stability. Maybe this is a group of shard mines that has been, observing for, years now, the growing threats, and they're finally taking action now that chaos has emerged. Motivation. Seraphel believes that balance between order and chaos is the true essence of existence. The unchecked spread of the Chaos Bubble and Nexus's ambitions would result in catastrophic imbalance. Key members. Lyria, keeper of the tomes, a wise old mage who dedicates her life to documenting and understanding the laws of magic and reality. She might have knowledge crucial to countering the Nexus and stabilizing the Chaos Bubble. That could be an adventure, right? There's a hook. Calum, I think that's Calum, Salem, maybe? I don't know. The Blade of Order, a celestial warrior with a sword that can cut through reality itself. What? He's the martial force of the Bastion, dedicated to restoring balance. The Bastion's stake. They fight to preserve the delicate equilibrium of the universe. Success ensures the continued stability and predictability of the world, while failure could mean the collapse of the very fabric of reality. Again, another group that's been created that I didn't ask for specifically. I didn't give Kathy all this stuff, and she came up with this group. I'm not sure where she gets her info from. So, maybe somebody out there screaming, I created that and posted it to the internet in 2010. I don't know. Okay, but I'm saying that I've never seen that before. And the fact that she's come up with some cool ideas, I can take this, adapt it to my game world, and make it work. That's what's exciting me. Like, it's new stuff I hadn't thought about. And I also like that this group is also not directly tied to Nexus, or it's not like, oh, the ship birthed these people to go and fight, right? It wasn't like they were being directed by anybody. They could be an independent third party yet again, another faction that's been created with members and mottos and headquarters, that sort of thing, motivations that can definitely involve the characters. And you could see how maybe the Agents of Chaos are an aggressive attacking group that shows up. And then you've got the Agents of Order could be a contracting group, like, hey, we need your help. Or you could flip the script on this. Nobody says that the Whisperers of Chaos have to be bad. Maybe these guys, the Luminary Guardian or the Celestial Equilibrium, show up and they are beating the snot out of a bunch of people in one of the a refugee camp, let's say, because they're the somebody in there is an Agents of Chaos and they must be, put to the sword type of thing. And the player character's like, whoa, 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 who are you people? Why are you, murdering these civilians or whatever? And they try to defend them, and they're, oh, you're agents, you're friends of the chaos too. You must be, killed or whatever, slain. Or maybe there's a character with a backstory, a background that ties into Nexus. Maybe there's a gear forged, some sort of construct in the party, and these people see constructs as evil, that they're parts of the machine, cogs in this machine, this Nexus, or the Nebulon ship itself. And so those things must be dismantled. And so they come after the party because of one of their party members, some sort of, almost like a racist type of thing. That could be a thing. So that's a cool idea. And then the Agents of Chaos, the other side, are like, hey, we'll free you from imprisonment, or, we'll show you where your friend was just taken by these order, zealots. All right, and then the last part here, which is pretty cool, is she's going to give a world tie-in, which I like as well. So how does this fit into the plot? The Harbingers of the Abyss learn of the Chaos Bubble and the potential of Nexus to exploit it. They actively try to prevent the players from interfering, seeing them as obstacles to their vision of chaotic utopia. They're trying to prevent them. So the Harbingers of the Abyss, they learn of this bubble, and Nexus trying to exploit it. They're trying to prevent the players from interfering. So the players are maybe contracted to stop the bubble, and they're like, no, you have to let the bubble grow. A new utopia is upon us. Oh, right. And the players are attacked because they were sent to, try to explore and shut down this growing bubble threat. The Bastion of Celestial Equilibrium might approach the players, offering guidance on how to navigate the warped reality of the Chaos Bubble and knowledge on combating Nexus's nanites. They're the beacon of hope in this chaotic struggle, though they may also have their own rigid ideologies which might not always align with the players' goals. So yeah, they might seem like the good guys at first, but maybe there's some really strict things that you have to do, and otherwise you get, attacked by. So yeah, you can get attacked by these guys. That could also be an interesting little plot twist. And then throughout this intertwined plot, the players are encountering both these factions. They're offered alliances, and they're forced to make decisions on whom to trust. They might realize neither extreme is beneficial and that the true solution is somewhere in the middle. Great, it gives you a moral quandary. All right, this is good stuff. So, I mean, I could go on with this for hours, right? I mean, and I've only looked at a couple of things really, really quickly, but I'm immediately, and hopefully you can kind of tell my wheels are turning, and that's really the beauty of, I think, the chat bot here is, I mean, it's not, taking over, like, right? It's not stealing people's stuff. It's given me some cool ideas, and now I can use them to really flesh out and make my game much more unique, much more interesting. So I want to end the video here because she's just given me a bunch of stuff to think about that I hadn't even started off. It wasn't like today. I was thinking, oh yeah, I need these couple factions. She gave me some really cool ideas just for one of the intertwined plots. And so what I'm going to do with it, I don't know yet, but I like this. This is good. Good stuff. All right. Anyway, if that was interesting, you want to watch more, of course, subscribe, blah, 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 like the video, you know what to do. And what I'll probably ultimately do is maybe take some of this other information that she's put together here and create some sort of PDF or something that I can provide for you guys to, take a look at. I'm set that up maybe through a Discord or a Patreon or something like that. Anyway, or maybe I'll make a link below. All right. Thanks for checking this out. I'll catch you later.